Alright, here we are back in Onshape again. I'm going to demonstrate how to use some of your basic drawing tools. So I just selected the top plane. I'm going to view it from the top-down view. I'm going to click the sketch button, and I'm going to show you how to use the line, the rectangle, and the circle tools. So here's the line command. If I click and click and click, every time I click I'm setting a point in a line. If I press escape, I can get out of that line. Notice none of these are sized. There are no dimensions appearing. If I were to click on this one section of line and, whoops, hey you, I must have missed. Click and drag. I can move that line, but you'll notice there's a line attached to it that's also staying attached and stretching. And this line is getting smaller and smaller the more I move it. Onshape is really not a huge fan of you just randomly eyeballing, clicking, and dragging stuff around. There's always something connected to whatever it is you're dragging. So you're potentially going to change more than you anticipated changing. Hey, look, I can get away with that first point. That's about it. The best way to change things is to dimension all of these parts and then change the dimensions. You can get the dimension tool up there. You can also just press D on your keyboard and click a line, and now I've got a dimension, and I could change that and press enter, and it changed, but so did everything else attached to it, because nothing else is dimensioned. So all of these are taking their relational sizing info based off of this one first line. So in order to do all of this and keep it all right, I really should have had dimensions from the get-go. Let me just add a few more here. Let's say that was also supposed to be 1, and let's say this was also supposed to be 1, and this was also supposed to be 1, and each time I'm just clicking and dragging, well, and now waiting for my internet to catch up, and 1. Okay. Now theoretically everything is the right size. And now if I were to change this 1 to something like 0.5, it's going to change, but nothing else does, because all the other things have lengths assigned to them now that I've added those dimensions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo all of this and show you a better way to do this. Your drawings really should have a plan from the start. So if I start that line tool again and put in a couple of points, right there it gives me a number. That number will go in as a hard dimension if I just press enter. So boom, there it is. Now that object is something that I can work with later. That also gives me a chance, if I do it again, to change the number right then and there. So if I press a 2 now and press enter, that line is going to be 2 long. Still in the line command, going to press escape. We're going to use these same principles to go do a rectangle. I'm going to set a corner, set another corner, and I've got a chance to do 2 dimensions there and there. If I just press enter for each of these, I will accept them both, or I can type them in. So I can type 1 there, and then say 2 there, and we've got a 1x2 rectangle. I'm still in the rectangle command, but I don't like where this 1 ended up. I'm going to press escape to get out of that rectangle command, and I'm just going to drag that 1 up a little higher so it's out of the way. Next to the rectangle, you'll notice there is a drop down arrow because there are more commands hiding under that one, and this is for drawing another rectangle just using a center point. So I'm going to use the center point for the rectangle, and I'm going to grow my rectangle based on that. And again, I could just press enter twice to accept those numbers, or I could have changed them. Or I could escape and not use them, but that's generally not your best bet. Now I'm going to go to the circle tool, and this first option asks for a center point and then a diameter. And I'm just going to press enter and accept that. I'm also running out of room here in my top view. I'm going to zoom out a little bit more. You do not have to stay inside this top grid. You can go anywhere you need to. I'm going to hit this drop down. I'm going to go to a 3-point circle, and it just wants 3 points. So like there, and there, and there. And I've defined 3 points on a circle, and it drew the circle for me. Finally, under this drop down, there's a chance to do an ellipse, more of an oval. And to do this, you do a center point, and then you do a length. How long is the longest axis on your ellipse, and then you do a width. How wide is it from the center out to the side of the ellipse? And there we go. I've got an ellipse with 2 dimensions, and those are changeable. I'm going to press escape and just drag this one out to the side and this one up. We never did accept the dimension on there, but that's okay. Now notice everything here is blue. That's not a bad thing depending on what you're trying to do. What it means is it's not fully defined in 3D space. Onshape doesn't really know where these objects are. In order to tell it where they are and how they relate to everything else, we would have to add a lot more dimensions and or start working from a known location. So for instance, to help it out, this center point is always known by Onshape. I could add a dimension from there to this corner, and that's going to let Onshape know that it's supposed to be that far. And so you'll notice the lines here on this side of the rectangle turn black. And also look at this dimension. It gets harder to read the more I zoom out. That's okay. The dimensions scale as you zoom in and out. If you can't read a dimension, just zoom in. It'll be okay. I'm going to pan over. Remember to pan on a Mac using a trackpad, hold down the control key and click with 2 fingers and drag. And when I say click, I mean like make it click and then hold it down. Don't let back up. The reason only 2 of these lines turned black is because I only gave it 1 measurement here in a horizontal distance. So it showed me 2 lines measured horizontally. If I want this other line here to turn blue and the one above it, I need a vertical distance too. So I've already got my dimension tool selected. I'm going to just grab the same corner I did last time. But instead of pulling down like I did last time, I'm just going to move my mouse until I've got a vertical dimension and then click. And press enter. It's going a little slow. And now this whole rectangle has been adequately defined. Onshape is happy. It knows how big it is and where it is in 3D space. And it's waiting for more information for all the rest of these, which I'm not going to define at this point in time, and it's not necessary to define them unless you're trying to make 3D objects. We'll get into that more when you get to 3D CAD. But for now, this sketch is done. I'm just going to hit the green check mark, and the sketch is locked in place, and we can move on.